Well, as you've heard from Mweli, a lot of maneuvering of budgets that needs to take place in the wake of these increases, and people really struggling to keep afloat. Many South Africans hoping that this is the worst that we've seen. Peter Morgan joins us tonight. He is CEO at the Liquidfuels Wholesalers Association of South Africa. Peter, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Of course, we are expecting you to look into the crystal ball and tell us we're not going to get any more significant fuel increases as what we've already experienced. How hard is that, Peter?
You know, I'm not a fuel trader, and looking into crystal balls terrifies me. I can, however, look at numbers, and numbers can tell us a lot. And unfortunately, I can't give you the answer that you're looking for. Because if I look at the BFP numbers from yesterday, which we receive daily, one day behind, it says that 95, we're under-recovering by R1.31, and 93, we're under-recovering by 94 cents. Now, we must remember that that excludes the 75 cents that is in the price at the moment to soften it. So you've got to add that back. You know, the currency over the last couple of days is doing us no favor. And if you look at the fuel price, you know, taxes and levies make up nearly R6. I've heard of no discussion that gives me any hope that those are going to be reduced. If I look at the BFP numbers from yesterday, you know, R16.89 comes through the BFP price, which we have absolutely no control over. So for me, we're heading for more price increases at the beginning of August. But there is one issue that's been worrying me, and it's worrying me more and more every time I think about it. And if you look at the press release that came out a couple of days ago, on there it has a paragraph that says there's a slate that has a negative balance of 14.79 billion rand. What that means is that the motorist in South Africa owes the oil industry that 14.79 billion rand. So somewhere along the line, we've got to start paying that back too. So I don't see any good news coming in the next month, I'm afraid. I can't see it happening.
It's interesting because yesterday when we spoke to the Retailers Association, they were talking about how many of their members are already operating on a negative balance, and that a lot of retailers are currently running their businesses off their overdrafts.
Well, I'm afraid for independent wholesalers, it's exactly the same thing. We've actually had really got a double whammy at the moment. At the end of May, the zone differentials, which is the cost of getting products from Durban inland on vehicles, on trucks, was reduced because the government was actually given the wrong information to do that calculation. It's an annual calculation. So we have a business environment where the actual cost of business, what it was costing us, is not squeezing margins. It's an actual cost recovery that's been reduced. And what we know in this industry is that it's, you know, margins and cost recoveries in the fuel industry in South Africa is like a long, thin balloon that the clowns use to make little animals out. If you squeeze it in one place, it pops up somewhere else. It's got to go somewhere. So we're faced with a situation now where our suppliers are actually hardening rebates and discounts to us. So on one hand, we've had the cost reduced by government. On the other hand, we're having our discounts and rebates reduced. So really, we're trading in awful conditions. And in most cases, it's probably true to say that we're trading in bankrupt conditions at the moment.
Peter, realistically then, looking at what we should anticipate over the next couple of months, do you foresee that given all of these different costs that are yet to be factored in, yes, they might not be priority right now, but certainly even if things with the exchange rate ease up and the war in Russia and Ukraine also eases up, we're still going to be left with high fuel prices. But do you think that we're going to get to a point where we breach the 30 Rand a litre mark?
You know, the 30 Rand a litre mark is an interesting discussion. But we know of a situation that happened not so long ago where there was a vessel of fuel parked outside the port in Beira to go into Africa just above us. And that vessel sat there for 40 days because the price of the fuel on the vessel was more expensive than the selling price in the retail networks in the country where it was going to. So what worries us is the fact that we're not talking about the sustainability of this industry. But when I talk about independent wholesalers trading like they are now, we can no longer guarantee the sustainability of liquid fuels in the non-urban areas, which is where we trade. So, I remember a discussion we had a number of years ago around electricity, and it was called Black Swan. And the discussion was, what happens when we have no electricity? How do we get the whole economy to start? Where's the point, which is the first, point where you start electricity that can feed others? I think we should be having this discussion around liquid fuels at the moment. That says, is it about 30 Rand a litre, or is it, when do we not have fuel sustainability? Where's the crossover point? And I think that's the discussion we should be having now.
Oh, Peter, so much for us to think about there, and certainly a lot more of this conversation that needs to be had. We'll leave it there for tonight. Peter Morgan, he's the CEO at the Liquid Fuels Wholesalers Association of South Africa.